In this video, I'm going to show you how to get rich as F on YouTube. This works if you're already active on social media or if you're completely new. You don't need to have a huge following, you don't need to post cringy videos, and you don't need to spend a ton of time or money making content. I only spend a few hours each week on content, and I still make well into the six figures, even without getting a ton of views. And the way to do this is with a niche authority channel. A niche authority channel is a channel that makes specialized content for a targeted group of people. So instead of making content on general business info, you would make content specifically on AI in business. Or instead of making content on how to make money online, you would make content on how to make money with TikTok Shop. This allows you to make tens of thousands of dollars even if you're only getting a few hundred views per video. Most people think they want the biggest audience possible, but a question I like to ask is, do you want views or do you want money? Because those two aren't always the same thing. If you just wanted views, then sure, making a dance video to whatever song is trending will probably get you the biggest audience. But if you want to make money and have a sustainable business, then having a niche authority channel is currently the best way to do it. These channels don't need brand deals or AdSense to make money, and pretty much anyone with a room temperature IQ is smart enough to manage one. So what exactly does this look like, and how can you do it for yourself? Well, it really comes down to four key things. First, there's the niche. So this is the topic that you make videos on. Then there's the content. So this is going to be the videos that you make. Then there's the offer. So how you're going to make money. And then there are the systems. So how you're going to scale and make money long term. Each one of these are equally as important, and if you get any of these four things wrong, then the other three just aren't going to work, so you need to make sure that you understand them. When it comes to the niche, this is the part that a lot of people struggle with. You want to pick something that you actually have experience in. So not just something that's currently trending. This can be a problem that you've solved, it can be something that you helped other people with, or it can just be a skill set that you've learned. And you don't have to be some expert. As long as you know more than the people who are watching you, then you have value that you can provide to the viewers. An analogy I like to make is that you don't have to be a college professor to teach math to third graders. A lot of people assume that they need to be the absolute best at something in order to talk about it, but I promise you, you really don't have to. As long as you have some knowledge about whatever the niche topic is, that's really all that matters. So to give you an example, I know someone with an average GPA who got into a pretty nice college and also got a ton of scholarships. And now he makes content on helping other people do the same thing that he did. Or to give a completely different example, I also know a woman who was divorced in her late 20s and had to start over, and now she makes content helping other women who are dealing with a similar situation. Notice how neither one of these two people are necessarily experts, but both of them are in very specific niches. One is targeting college kids with average GPAs trying to get scholarships, and the other is targeting newly divorced women in their late 20s. The reason why this is important is because when you have a specific niche, you're able to have a ton of authority, you know exactly who it is that you're talking to, and you're able to connect with the people who are watching you. So even if you don't have a massive audience, the audience that you do have is still very, very strong. And this works for almost any niche that you can think of. So it works for fitness content, business content, relationship content. All you have to do is figure out something that you have an interest in and narrow in on a niche that's surrounding it. The more targeted that your niche is, the easier this whole process becomes because every piece of content you make speaks directly to the same person. This is where most people get stuck because they want to try to relate to everyone. But when you try to relate to everyone, you end up relating to no one, and it just leaves you in kind of a weird spot where you don't really know what niche you're targeting. Picking a niche can be a bit overwhelming, but just spend some time thinking about it. And remember that you can always pivot later on if whatever niche you picked doesn't end up working out. Once you know your audience, the next step is creating authority-based content. This is the content that makes tens of thousands of dollars without needing tens of thousands of views. So how do you make authority content? Well, authority content does three things. First, it educates. So your content always needs to lead with value. In my videos, I try to give away as much value as possible, and that's how all authority content should be. The more that you give away for free, the more people like you and trust you, and the more they're willing to give back to you in return. Now, other than educating people, your content also needs to demonstrate. So your content should show that you have experience or know how to solve whatever problem it is that you're talking about. This can be through explaining your past experiences, it can be proof of your own results, proof of client results, or anything along those lines. Pretty much, it just needs to be something that backs up whatever it is that you're saying. Again, you don't have to be an expert, you just have to be honest about whatever experience that you do have, and people are going to connect with that. Now, third, authority content always repeats. So you need to have general principles that repeat throughout your content. Obviously, all of your content is going to vary. It's going to be slightly different from video to video, but there needs to be a set of guiding principles that get repeated. This shows people that those are the core things that your content stands for, and that's a really big part when it comes to building authority. The goal is to simply make videos describing your experience, describing your problems, talking about your solutions, and everything else regarding the niche that you're in. Over time, this is pretty much guaranteed to give you authority in your space. If you're not great at content, this can seem difficult, but it's actually a lot easier than most people assume. As long as you have knowledge about something that people care about, that's all that really matters. So if you sit down in front of a whiteboard, or if you do a screen recording like this one, that alone is enough to build an audience, assuming that your content is good. You don't need to film with a $5,000 camera, or hire editors, or make some crazy high production video. Honestly, sometimes raw videos like this one work a lot better than those, simply because people trust authenticity more than they trust perfection. I still chop up my videos at least a little bit because I stutter and I repeat myself and I say and but generally speaking, my videos are really low production. Also, I've made a ton of money online, but instead of flexing on camera, I'd rather let the content speak for itself, because that is how you build an authentic brand. You don't need to flex on people, you don't need to go rent a supercar. As long as you know what you're talking about and you lead with education and you demonstrate the process and you repeat the same core principles, that's all it really takes to build authenticity. It doesn't hurt to show some proof here or there if you need to. Like in my videos, I show some quick screenshots in the beginning just to prove a point, but you don't need crazy production to show that you know what you're talking about. And the same goes for pretty much any single niche that's out there. Also, I'm not saying you should never do higher production content, because it does still have its place depending on your brand. But right now, people are really connecting with more raw and authentic content, which can really work in your favor, especially if you're starting out. If you just sit down and make videos about your niche and you tell people the experiences you've had and you talk about common problems and solutions, it's not that hard to build an audience and gain authority. And once you have an audience, that is when you start to make some serious money. But in order for this whole business to work, you need to have the right offer in place, which leads us to the next step. So your offer is where the money happens. This is how you truly make serious money with a content business. Most creators make the mistake of relying on AdSense and brand deals, but both of those require a huge audience and they still vary a lot in terms of income. I can confidently say this because I've built multiple YouTube channels that have made hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I've been doing this for over 5 years now. AdSense and brand deals are great, sometimes they work, but overall, it's a really tough game to play, and if you're not super passionate about content itself and you don't have a really good understanding of it, then this is something that's really hard to get into as a beginner. And honestly, even if you're more experienced, the problem with brand deals and AdSense is you can't build predictable income off of platforms that you don't actually control. If the algorithm changes tomorrow, then there goes your AdSense. And if for whatever reason brands decide they don't want to sponsor YouTubers anymore, which has happened before, then there goes your brand deals. In order to make real money without needing a ton of views, you need to have what's called a high ticket offer. This means you need to sell something for ideally several $1,000s that helps your niche solve a problem. Now, there's a ton of different ways that you can structure an offer, but generally speaking, it's best to create some sort of done with you consulting package where you work with clients one-on-one or in some sort of small group setting. And the reason why you want to do high ticket instead of low ticket is pretty simple. With a high ticket, you don't need thousands of sales, you really only need a few. For example, if your offer is $7,000, then 4 clients a month is $28,000 a month. Or 1 client a month is already replacing your full-time income. Now, you might be thinking no one is going to pay you, $3,000 or $10,000 for consulting, but I promise you, if you're able to solve a problem for someone, they will gladly pay you in order for you to help them. This is especially true if you aren't a scammer and add in something like a money-back guarantee or have some good testimonials. That way, people know that you are who you say you are. Just to give an example, one of my clients is an actor who's been in a few Netflix shows, nothing crazy, but he definitely has a decent resume. And he has a consulting service where he teaches new actors how to get an agent, how to get a manager, how to improve their auditions, and how to get their first role all within the first 90 days. And for doing this service, he charges people $3,000. Now, if you break that down, that means for $1,000 a month, an up-and-coming actor can essentially speedrun the first 2 to 3 years of their career to start making money. And considering most speaking roles in the acting world pay $500 to $1,000 per day, that's a pretty good deal. And this is honestly just one random example. There are plenty of other people with offers just like this. I know someone who helps businessmen find wives. I know someone who helps new mothers get their body back in shape after having a child. I know someone who helps people start a pressure washing side hustle. Basically, if there's a problem that exists, there are going to be people out there who are willing to pay for it to be fixed. And since we're working with a high ticket offer, you don't really need that many clients. Maybe only 1 out of every 100 up and coming actors would pay for consulting on their acting career. But if you're someone selling a high ticket offer, then 1 to 2 per month is really all you need. And again, you don't even have to be the best at it. As long as you're better than the person that you're teaching, that's all that really matters. My client who's an actor isn't some A-list celebrity. He doesn't have his name on the Walk of Fame, but he's been in a decent amount of Netflix shows and he's way more successful than any actors who are just starting out. So he's still able to teach them a lot. And this same concept can be applied to pretty much anything. But if you want to turn this into an actual business that repeats itself, then you need to have some systems in place. This is what turns your YouTube channel into a predictable way to make money long term. And it's one of the most important parts of this strategy. Now, really, there are 3 main things that you need. The first is lead capture. So when someone watches your video and thinks, I want to learn more, or I want to buy this, then where exactly do they go? So you need a simple system that solves this. It can be a free resource or like a mini training that helps build their trust more, or it can even just be a pinned comment with a clear CTA. Regardless of what it is, every video should have a clear path for someone to go from a viewer to a client. Otherwise, you're going to be missing out on a lot of leads, and that is no way to scale a business. Now, the next system is sales. Whether you like it or not, you need to learn how to sell, or you need to hire someone who does know how to sell. Because if you can't convert initial interest into sales, then you aren't going to have a very strong business. Personally, I like to keep the process very simple. First, you have a discovery call, then you diagnose the problem, then you show your solution, and then, if it makes sense, the client closes. You don't need to have any high pressure sales tactics. It's really a simple yes or no answer. If you show them what you can do and you show them how it can help them, either they want to move forward or they don't. Remember, the goal here isn't to become another scamming guru. The goal is to actually help people who want to be helped. Now, moving on, the next system is fulfillment. This is where you actually deliver results. So you need to build repeatable processes with videos, templates, checklists, employees, or whatever else is needed to help keep things running smoothly. Even if you only have a small handful of clients, you need to have a clear system on how you're going to help them and manage them. That way, everyone gets what they paid for, you aren't working nonstop, and everyone ends up happy in the end. When you have systems that are running smooth, you have the option to step back and chill or double down on the content that actually feeds the machine, and it just makes for a much better existence. Again, if you need help with any of this, click the link below and I'll see if I can help you out. Either way, I appreciate you watching and I'll see you in the next one.